Hello fellow nerdmaids and nerdmaids-to-be, my name is Faith, and today I'm going to be sharing with you the skills that you should know before you become a mermaid. In the video where I talked about how to become a mermaid, I'd said that you need to be proficient in the water. Now what does that look like? I'm here to break it down. My qualifications are I am a swim instructor, have been for the past about 7 years, a lifeguard as well, and I've been a mermaid both casually and professionally for about just as long. So this is my personal take. FinFun did a really fantastic video that I'm referencing, and I'm going to start on the exact same bullet point that they did, floating! Both on your back and your front. Just like a starfish, you want to be really relaxed in the water with nice wide legs and arms. Just hold it for maybe 5 seconds or so. This shows that you are comfortable and you know how to recover at the top of the water when you're both in your mermaid tail or without. So to do that, we're going to roll over from our front to our back. You're going to roll your arm down by your side and flip yourself like a pancake. So see how I do it? I go from my front and then to my back. And this skill is actually on a few mermaid tests I've done at pools. And then the next step, once you feel like you've mastered that, is to do those floats with your legs together. Now, I know it seems a little bit tricky, and trust me, it is. It's okay to give a little kick to bring your feet up to the top of the water, but this will simulate you wearing a mermaid tail and then simulate doing a recovery. If you have breasts, you will find this to be a bit easier. If you're more muscular and dense, you may find floats a little bit harder, and it's okay. Everyone's bodies are different, but as long as you're relaxed and mostly at the top of the water, I consider that a win. And this skill also translates really well into mermaiding, because if you want to get a good photo of your fluke at the top of the water, a back float will be the perfect way to show that off. Alright, our next skill is a little bit harder. This is a 50-meter swim, which is often a standard swim test to have swimmers prove that they actually know how to swim for a prolonged period of time. So this was a 17-meter pool, so I swam across it twice. I am doing a basic front crawl or freestyle stroke. Don't critique my form, I don't do this a lot. I'm not gonna lie, I got a little bit winded. I don't like swimming like a human, but swimming laps will build up your endurance, and if you feel like this might be a bit too far of a distance for you to do unassisted, aka not stopping and touching the bottom, the wall, or hanging onto the rope, or doing it without a floaty, definitely work on that, because adding a mermaid tail is just going to make everything harder or more tiring, so make sure that you are confident swimming at least this distance before you try a mermaid tail. Our next skill is something that everyone should know, treading water or surface support. So this is where you are unassisted, keeping your head above water where you can't touch the bottom. So I am doing the egg beater kick, but you can do whatever is most comfortable for you. I would try to demonstrate the egg beater kick with below water footage, but it turned out really poorly. But if you watch my legs, I'm moving them in inward circular motions, and I'm keeping my body in sort of a semi-sitting position, and my arms are just below the surface of the water. This is a really important thing to master because you're going to be doing it a lot when you have a mermaid tail. Of course, here I'm trying to make myself suffer and doing it without hands, which was really fun and interesting. But treading water is an excellent fitness and endurance test, and this shows that you are comfortable in water above your head, and you know how to rescue yourself should you ever fall into trouble. Okay, and now for something that seems the most obvious that you should know before you mermaid, the dolphin kick. This is a full body motion, not just a kick of the legs and feet, that originates from competitive swimming and freediving. It is a really efficient way to move through the water without using your arms a whole bunch. To be honest, I really didn't like this footage that I took demonstrating it in this tail. I blame the Finis Luna, so we're just gonna switch to something where I look a little bit better showing it off with a monofin, and then I'll show you what it looks like without a monofin, sort of. When you're doing your dolphin kick, you want to start the kick with the top of your body at your shoulders, and then rolling down to your chest, your core, your hips, and then your legs and beat will follow. The power phase should come on the downbeat of the kick. Something you should avoid is overbending your knees or folding your body like an accordion, because that is going to slow you down. If you want to speed up and streamline yourself, I like to put my arms above my head. That is one of my personal preferences. It also helps me be aware of my surroundings so that I'm not hitting the bottom of the pool or the sides of the pool or other swimmers like that as well. If you want a way more comprehensive tutorial by this, Mermaid Echo has a fantastic video on their channel. I highly recommend it. It goes way more in depth than I ever could in this video, and they're a fantastic performer and a PADI mermaid instructor, so I absolutely trust their judgment. But before you get your tail, go to the pool, try out the dolphin kick. I would recommend being able to do at least 25 meters of this in one go. Obviously, you're going to need to stop and take for breaths, and I really want you to focus on doing just one big slow undulation. You don't even really have to kick, you can just kind of dive and go back down so you get the feel of it. Obviously, I don't love doing this with just my legs. It feels a little weird after swimming in a mermaid tail for so long, but it's still a really good workout and a great way to refine your skills. And then once you feel good about that, try adding flippers. Again, making sure your body is in a streamlined position, and that will mimic how a monofin feels on your feet. Yeah, and go from there. You got this. And now let's talk about another skill that you might not have thought about when practicing your dolphin kick, a vertical dolphin kick. Okay, maybe I was a bit misleading. What I really mean is a surface support. So this is keeping your head above the water, except you have your legs together like you're in a mermaid tail. So I like to do a little bit of a dolphin kick while I'm doing so, and this is just to keep myself kind of steady and in the same spot in the water. I'm not exerting a lot of energy going back and forth because that's just silly. I'm just usually doing a small kick from my hips downwards, and I'm not doing it too often, maybe just one every few seconds, and a lot of the times the monofin is just going to do a lot of the work for you. But the real power comes from your arms. You'll notice, ooh, look at those swimmer shoulders. That's because I do this all of the time when I'm swimming. I'm doing that same motion in and out with my arms, slow and relaxed, just at or below the surface of the water. Now, of course, when you're doing this, or when you're practicing this, you can actually go into your full body undulations. Look at my shoulders, my hips. It looks like I'm belly dancing. You can really see the similarities here. But this is actually a skill that has been on several mermaid tests I've been a part of, either surface support with just your arms, or surface support with your legs together, or surface support with your monofin. Because you need to prove that you know how to keep your head above water and breathe comfortably when you're in water above your head. This is a skill that not a lot of people talk about, but it is very essential because if you're at the pool and that one kid is talking to you and won't shut up, you need to find a way to be comfortably relaxed and talking to them and not feel like you're drowning. So practice this, try and get to at least 1 minute of doing this surface support, and again, your arms are going to be very, very crucial in this skill. Another skill that is fantastic to practice before mermaiding is called sculling. So you're going to start in a back position with your hands slightly apart from you, flex your palms so they're pointing towards your feet, and scoop your hands with your fingertips together in an in and out or a figure 8 motion. I like to say that I'm like the queen giving a wave, thank you for being here today. And this is a really efficient way to propel yourself around the water. I find it's awesome for trying to pose for photos. You can just kind of motor around, and it is something that they use in synchronized swimming a lot, so look up some tutorials on it if you're having a bit of an issue with it, as synchronized swimmers have lots of things to say about sculling, and it has so many different applications and different techniques. So just play around with it like any other sort of water skill. Find what works for you. I personally love sculling because it keeps my fluke off the ground if I am not feeling that, and it helps me get set up for tricks without disturbing the water too much or using a lot of energy. So you may have been watching this video and going, Faith, that's all fine and dandy, and I really want to be a mermaid, but getting my face underwater is not something that I enjoy. And unfortunately, if you want to swim as a mermaid, it's pretty important to be able to do that, not only just to get more enjoyment out of it, but also because it's way easier to do a full dolphin kick when your body is under the water. But I get it. Chlorinated water especially is not fun to deal with, so here are some adaptations you can do. The first one, most obvious, is wear goggles. This will help you actually see what you're doing and where you're going. I always like to wear goggles when I'm in a new environment or when I'm trying a new trick or a new tail. Safety is so important, and it also protects your eyes. If you don't want to wear goggles, I highly recommend using eye drops. That will protect your eyes from infections and stuff like that. I've been opening my eyes underwater for many, many years. My parents didn't buy me goggles as a child while doing a swim lesson, so I just learned how to suck it up and deal with it. But I understand that is not everyone's experience, and goggles are totally valid for mermaiding. A quick note about goggles, though, if you have just the kind of sport swimming style that go over your eyes, those aren't super great for swimming deep under the water. You're going to get pressure build up, so I recommend getting a dive mask. You feel like a professional freediver when you wear them. They're great, and that also covers your nose, which leads into my next thing, which is getting water up your nose. People ask, how do you do your tricks and not get water up your nose? Oh, I do. I just suffer. Or you can use a thing called a sinus saver, which are like these little nose plugs that go inside your nose, and they're honestly great. I've used them several times. I don't know why I don't use them more, or you could use a nose clip, but a lot of mermaids swear by the sinus savers. The last thing that people will find uncomfortable is getting water in their ears. It is uncomfortable, it won't kill you, but if that is just something you don't want to deal with, you can also get earplugs, silicone earplugs. I think there's even like vented ones. I personally haven't ever used them, but I know some mermaids who have. And then one more thing that also helps, if you're wanting the most realistic look, my advice is just to practice. Practice acclimatizing yourself to opening your eyes underwater. You can start by doing it in fresh water like the bathtub or the shower, and for getting water up your nose, again, just acclimatize yourself. Or another thing that I do is I blow bubbles out of my nose when I'm flipping upside down and stuff. That stops the water from pouring in. If you pay attention to my videos, you may see that I do that often, and sometimes I'll even clear my nose of water before I surface, which is very, very helpful. Alright, and the last skill that you should have an idea of is buoyancy. Now, buoyancy is how floaty or sinky you are in the water, essentially. And this might not be something that you're super aware of. When you were doing your floats, though, you may have found, oh yeah, this is really easy for me, or oh, this isn't as easy for me. All bodies are different, but most people have a point of buoyancy of about their shoulders or their chest, and that's where they're gonna pop out of the water, because our bodies have these two things in them called lungs that fill us up with air. But that's not super helpful when we want to get down to the bottom of the pool. And just to clarify, I'm talking about buoyancy and breathing and sinking in a recreational mermaid term. I'm not talking in freediving terms, and we're gonna get into that a bit later. And every mermaid tail is different, and every person is different, but I usually will just start at the top of the water, and I let out a few puffs of air until I am neither descending nor ascending. But some people might go, hey, I can let out all my air, and I'm still not moving to the bottom. Please don't let out all your air. We really don't want to be swimming with an empty tank. There's a couple ways you can fudge it. You can do surface dives, where you're starting at the top, bending your body in half, and going straight down to the bottom, giving yourself a couple kicks. Then you can stay there for a few seconds and just kind of vibe. Courtney Mermaid has a really fantastic video on how to sink in a mermaid tail without weights. And without weights is very important because it's kind of driving me crazy. Recently in the mermaid community, there's been a lot of discussion about weights and weight belts. And that's awesome. I'm all for making mermaiding easier. But weights are extremely dangerous to experiment with unless you're properly trained. If you're interested in that, I highly recommend getting a freedive certification. That's what I did. They taught me how to properly weight myself when I'm under the water. Because when you're freediving, you're very floaty because often you're in a wetsuit, and one of the disciplines in freediving is to keep your full breath of air the entire duration of your dive. Now you'll notice that I don't do that in my videos. Like I said earlier, I let out some air, and that's because I'm not trying to freedive. If I was actually freediving, I wouldn't be doing things without a mask, I wouldn't be letting out some of my air, and I would have a freediving's trained safety spotter because they know how to recognize shallow blackout. But I'm just trying to vibe as a mermaid, as I'm sure that you are too. I think it's important to recognize that not every mermaid is going to have freediving or want to have freediving or even be able to get their freedive certification. If you're a mermaid and you're getting a bit confused on whether or not you should be doing a breath hold with your full tank of air, whether or not you should be weighting yourself, just do things safely. So if you're starting out, the safe thing to do is to not push your breath hold, always be supervised, and don't ever try to weight yourself. You don't need a freediving certification to be a valid mermaid. It's certainly helpful and it's really fun, but it is not a requirement. If you're wanting to work towards being a professional mermaid, a freediving certification is definitely going to help, but what I love about mermaiding is that it is this different blend of athletic and artistic styles, and so it really can be anything you want it to be. I personally came more from a cardio and lifeguarding background, so that's how I relate to mermaiding, whereas people who grew up with scuba diving or learned how to freedive or maybe are dancers can mermaid in different ways, and all ways are valid as long as you're doing it safely. And that concludes my video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. It's been on my list to make for a while. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already to hear more of my voice, see more of my mermaiding, and other wonderful things. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you later. Bye!